A very good evening and welcome to Primetime News here on TV1. You're joining me, Debbie Paldano. Now, before we head into your stories in more detail, let's first take a look at the headlines this evening.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Schools to reopen from grade 10 to 13 from the 8th of November. Tuition classes to resume with restrictions. Have farmers received nano fertilizer? Has the agriculture minister failed in his duties? Fast launched by farmers enters day 7. What happened to the farmers' struggle? Problems in the masonry industry.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
The interprovincial travel restrictions will be lifted at 4 a.m. tomorrow. Against such a backdrop, what steps has the health sector taken to curb the spread of COVID-19?
Travel restrictions.
The guidelines issued by Director General of Health Services Dr. Asela Gunawardena says interprovincial travel restrictions will be eased at 4 a.m. tomorrow. But he urged people to avoid non-essential travel and remain at home as much as possible.
How should essential services and other activities be carried out?
Daycare centers are permitted to open, while preschools can also open with half capacity. The Health Ministry has also granted permission for sports activities, but spectators are not permitted. Gymnasiums can open with a 30% capacity. Only 10 people are allowed inside a gym at a time. The guidelines also state that only a maximum of 15 people are permitted inside financial institutes, including banks, financing companies and pawning centers at a given time. Supermarkets can only allow 1/3 of its capacity at a time.
Can tuition classes reopen?
Tuition classes for ordinary level and advanced level students can resume from the 16th of next month with half capacity. This is according to health guidelines. For more details on the guidelines, you can visit www.newsfirst.lk. Education Minister Dinesh Gunawardena said all schools across the country will reopen from grade 10, 11, 12 and 13 from the 8th of next month. We hope to reopen schools for all grades by the end of next week. Following the approval of the Health Ministry, we will be reopening schools for students who will be sitting for examinations. Minister of Education Dinesh Gunawardena said plans have been made to reopen schools from grades 6 to 9. He said discussions are also taking place to prepare a plan to cover missed lessons.
16 suspects were remanded for assaulting 2 police officers in Moratuwa. The suspects had been produced before the Moratuwa Magistrates Court today.
Two police officers attached to the Moratuwa police station had visited Madangahavatta last night after being informed that a house in the area was being attacked. A group involved in the attack at the time had assaulted the 2 police officers. One of the police officers is currently at the intensive care unit of the Colombo National Hospital, while the other police officer is receiving treatment at the Kalubovila Hospital. 19 suspects were arrested by the Moratuwa police this morning for assaulting the police officers. This was the situation opposite the Moratuwa police after the 19 suspects were arrested.
The entire family was taken. The police officers said that the family had a verbal altercation with them. They attacked the people who were involved in the assault and even the people who were not involved in the incident. That is unfair.
The police were assaulted by around 7 people, but around 50 people living in our area were arrested. Some people were assaulted for no reason and dragged here. You can't find the people who carried out the assault as there were many people there. About 20 people were being held here and they are looking for another 15. But how can they find who carried out the assault? If they had cameras, they could have found the people who carried out the assault.
Three women were released on bail when the suspects were produced in court this evening. Court ordered for the remaining suspects to be remanded until the 12th of November.
Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on One Country, One Law, Venerable Galagodatte Gnanasaratero visited Kandy today.
Venerable Galagodatte Gnanasaratera called on the chief prelate of the Asgiri chapter of the Siam sect, Most Venerable Varakagoda Sri Gnanaratana Thera.
Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa visited the Temple of the Tooth in Kandy this morning.
The group, including the Minister of Finance, was welcomed by the custodian of the Temple of the Tooth, Nilamin Lanka. A souvenir was handed to the Finance Minister by the custodian of the temple to mark the visit. I visited the Temple of the Tooth to obtain blessings before presenting the budget for the people of the country. I believe I would get the luck I need to present a budget for the country and the public. Basil Rajapaksa paid a visit to the chief prelates of the Asgiri and Malwata chapters. However, the media was not allowed to cover the visit.
Divisions have arisen in the government over the move to sell shares of the Yugadanavi power plant to a US company. 11 parties, including the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, had joined civic groups to form what they call a People's Council to oppose the deal. The matter was discussed during a meeting with the President recently. Why did senior members of the government oppose this move? As a cabinet minister, we have a collective responsibility. As the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, we cannot tolerate it when they express different views during the meeting and then say something else after the meeting. That's because we are the main party. We don't like to be treated like this. It is a dog that wags its tail. The tail doesn't control the dog. This is a big problem. If a couple has a problem, they can go for a divorce. The wife and the husband can then marry whoever they want. The opposition also commented on the recent conduct of the 11 government parties. The cabinet ministers must understand that if their views are not being accepted, they must leave that faction instead of whining about it. I am asking them to leave the government. Why are they whining about it while being members of the government? Are ministerial positions so important? Are they permanent? People don't need ministerial positions. They don't need power in the government to speak on behalf of the people and to work on behalf of them. If we step out together, we can create a good country. Everyone knows that. The Janata Vimukti Peramuna also were critical about this move. Examine the history of these parties. When the port city was being leased out, they demanded that it must not be done. But when it was done, they were silent. When the East Container Terminal was to be given to India, a massive objection arose at the time. Veeravansa and his team were part of that. When the West Container Terminal was given, they went into hiding. Similarly, there were issues on dual citizenship surrounding the president. But when the president expressed emotional remarks, they allowed a dual citizen to enter parliament. A US citizen was given power. Those who supported the 20th Amendment don't have the right to oppose the destruction that is happening.
Meanwhile, a gazette has been issued declaring the services of several sectors including port, fuel, post, transport and state banks as essential services. The gazette issued by the Presidential Secretariat on the orders of the President says the aim is to continue essential services required by the people. Meanwhile, the United Trade Union Alliance of the CEB expressed the following views on the gazette. The government has declared fuel and port as essential services through a gazette, ignoring the CEB. That means the government has excluded the CEB from its administration. The government is going to hand over the entire energy sector to the US. The US ambassador spoke to a journalist yesterday. They have clearly said that they are going to interfere in the energy sector of the country. What is this power? Who gave this power? If the government is preparing to halt the upcoming actions by imposing essential service regulations relating to the fuel and the port sectors, they have failed. The government can't do that. We will not surrender.
While politicians deal with issues within their parties, farmers are suffering without fertilizer. It's been 2 weeks since the Maha cultivation season began, but farmers have been left helpless.
Members of 41 farmers associations in Murugakanda are staging a hunger fast for the 7th day today. The hunger fast is taking place at the Bakamuna junction. Members of more farmers associations marched to the site of the hunger fast this afternoon.
The entire country is demanding to listen to the farmers' demands. I am requesting for chemical fertilizer to be given to farmers. Otherwise, farmers are ready to stage a fast unto death campaign. We are requesting them to avoid pushing us to make that decision.
The All Island Agriculture Instructors Trade Union Federation convened a media briefing today.
We are requesting the minister to implement this decision over a period of 6 cultivating seasons. The experts in the agriculture department have clearly outlined how this must be implemented based on a scientific process. But the authorities have disregarded the scientific advice and are acting according to their own wishes. This program has failed as a result of that. Those involved in the agriculture sector are implementing the government's policy. We wish to tell farmers that what we are teaching you is not the right technology that has been implemented after scientific tests are conducted by the agriculture department. We are teaching you a technology that was taught to us by some foreign entities. We are not responsible for that. What is the cost of the compost fertilizer that is imported to the country? Don't blame the agriculture department and its officials if your harvest reduces.
කෘෂිකර්ම දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ එකදු නිලධාරියෙකුටවත් ඔබ විසින් වගකීම පවරන්න එපා.
It has been 10 days since Sri Lanka received the stock of nano-liquid urea fertilizer manufactured by the Indian Farmers Fertilizer Cooperative Company in Gujarat, India. Agriculture Secretary Udita K. Jayasinghe said the stock of fertilizer has been distributed to places including Ampara, Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa. However, when will the remaining fertilizer required for the Maha cultivation season be distributed? News First inquired on this matter from the Secretary to the Agriculture Ministry, Professor Udita K. Jayasinghe. He said a stock of nano-urea fertilizer is to be imported to the island from India in the coming days. He added that a portion of the stock will be brought to the country through air freight, with the remaining stock being brought by ship. News First also contacted the chairman of the Colombo Commercial Fertilizer Company on the matter. He said a stock of fertilizer will be imported next week. This would be the remaining portion of the fertilizer stock that was imported previously. They have not categorized it as organic or chemical fertilizer. Recommendations regarding it has not been issued. We are paying India to import water instead of nano-liquid urea fertilizer. We are not saying this. It is the professors who are saying this. According to the information we have received, the government has not even obtained the technical certificates to distribute the product. The government has also committed several crimes. They have ruined organic farming. Meanwhile, Agriculture Minister Mahindananda Aluthgamage expressed the following views regarding organic fertilizer during an event in Harispattua today.
We can give them food but not brains. They are insulting me when we are trying to give them a meal without poison. There are several allegations against the government. If they prove that the allegations that the president and the government had looted public funds, I will resign from politics. People are at home because of the pandemic. They say Sir has failed. It seems he has failed after doing the right thing. They might say he passed if he does the wrong thing.
Sir failed. මේ වගේ වැඩ කරාම ෆේල් තමයි ඉතින්. ඉතින් අර තමුන්නාන්සලා කියන විදියට වැරදි දේ කරනවා.
A state bank in Sri Lanka has been scarred as a result of an issue in importing fertilizer from China.
The People's Bank had honoured an order issued by the Commercial High Court preventing them from processing the payments for fertilizer sent from China that did not conform to local standards. The Chinese embassy in Sri Lanka had then blacklisted the People's Bank. It is important that we fully understand the reasons that led to the blacklisting of this state bank that had won the hearts of the people. This is a brief report on People's Bank, filed by Newsfirst. The People's Bank that was established on the 1st of July 1961 has been pivotal in developing the financial sector in Sri Lanka. Since its inception, the People's Bank identified the pulse of the people and supported them to meet their financial needs across a multitude of sectors. The Atamaru loan scheme introduced by the People's Bank in 1970 was one that was designed with the people's welfare at heart. This state bank came to the aid of the general public during trying times like the Civil War in 1983. The bank worked towards ensuring the safety of the savings of the general public. The People's Bank also plays a pivotal role at present in providing financial facilities for Sri Lanka's import and export sectors. The People's Bank was the main financial partner in many large-scale private sector infrastructure development projects as well. The bank rendered a great service to the nation during the COVID-19 pandemic. The dedication and devotion of the employees of the bank is evident by the fact that the bank was recognized as one of the top 1,000 banks in 2020. Some of the most recent achievements of the People's Bank includes being recognized as one of the 400 largest banks in Asia and being recognized by the International Chamber of Commerce of Sri Lanka and the Chartered Institute of Management of Sri Lanka as the best digital bank in Sri Lanka and also one of the most valuable companies in the country. How did such a highly recognized bank fall into China's blacklist? This did not happen as a result of the bank's financial standing or any irregularity. The bank was blacklisted for honoring an order issued by a court in Sri Lanka. What is unfortunate is that the relevant authorities have not been able to stand up against the foreign forces that scarred the good name of this reputed bank. Isn't the move of the Chinese embassy to blacklist such a reputed local bank simply for honoring an order issued by a court of law an insult to not only the People's Bank but also the general public of Sri Lanka? Although China blacklisted the People's Bank, Sri Lankan authorities have still not been able to blacklist the Chinese company that sent fertilizer contaminated with bacteria to Sri Lanka. Against such a backdrop, the people of this country are concerned as an internationally reputed local state bank has been scorned by a foreign entity. In a letter to the finance minister, the Ceylon Bank Employees Union said the reputation of the bank has been damaged by the Chinese fertilizer deal. The Ceylon Bank Employees Union requested the Minister of Finance to take steps to establish confidence in the people regarding the People's Bank.
The People's Bank has no choice but to respect the country's law and accept any order that is issued by court.
නීතියට පටහැනිව මේ කටයුතු තීරණය කිරීමේ වගකීම කාටද තියෙන්නේ? ඉතින් එතකොට
As banks, they are left helpless. The people are also helpless. The foreign ministry is helpless. As a country, we are helpless too. Instead of finding out who must be held responsible over this, there would be no problem if they act by giving priority to the country's law.
The Monetary Board of the Central Bank issued new rules in respect of repatriation of export proceeds into Sri Lanka and conversion of such export proceeds into Sri Lankan rupees. According to the Gazette, all export proceeds in respect of goods exported or services provided must be received within 180 days of the date of shipment or provision of service.
The new rule requires exporters to convert the remaining balance of export proceeds received into Sri Lankan rupees after meeting certain authorized payments. The authorized payments, as stipulated in the Gazette, are outward remittances in respect of current transactions, withdrawal in foreign currency notes as permitted, debt servicing expenses and repayment of foreign currency loans, purchasing of goods and obtaining services including 1-month commitments, payments in respect of making investments in Sri Lankan development bonds in foreign currency up to 10% of the export proceeds so received. Previously, on the 18th of February 2021, the CBSL made it mandatory for all exporters to convert 25% of their export proceeds into Sri Lankan rupees. After backlash from exporters against the decision, subsequently through a gazette issued on the 9th of April 2021, the CBSL made it mandatory for exporters to convert only 10% of their export proceeds. The new requirement, as per the gazette issued, is to convert only residual export proceeds.
We're going in for a short commercial break. Stay tuned for more of the very latest.
TV1 News First, main sponsor.
Students complete the ACBT University Entry Foundation in 8 months for 288,000 rupees.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Bellboy's got you covered. Download Bellboy today to get all your household appliance fixing and repairs done. Now available on Android and iOS. Do your online shopping with Sambole.lk. Home delivery and pickup now available.
Sambole.lk.
Welcome back to the news. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa left for Scotland this morning to attend the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference, also known as COP26.
The UN Climate Change Conference that brings together countries to discuss how to tackle climate change will begin tomorrow in Glasgow, Scotland, and will last until the 12th of next month. The 1st and 2nd of November have been allocated for the World Leaders Summit. The conference, under the theme "A Crucial Moment in the Fight Against Climate Change," will be attended by around 25,000 people, including businessmen, activists, government officials and heads of 197 countries from around the world. Minister of Environment Mahinda Amravira, State Minister Duminda Disanayaka, Principal Advisor to the President Lalit Birutunga, Foreign Secretary Admiral Professor Janath Kolumbage and Environment Secretary Dr. Anil Jasinghe will join the President to attend the COP26.
The COP26 summit will bring parties together to speed up action towards achieving the goals of the Paris Agreement and the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. These agreements aim to prevent dangerous interference from human activity on the climate system. During the COP26 summit, delegates will aim to finalize the rules needed to implement these agreements. Meanwhile, Britain's Queen Elizabeth will not attend the COP26 climate change summit in Glasgow following medical advice to rest.
An event focused on UN Week 2021 and SDG Action Decade 2021 to 2030 was held at the BMICH today.
The event saw the participation of several high-level dignitaries. The event was graced by State Minister Dayasri Jayasekara.
We have started the journey of establishing batik and handloom villages, which will provide employment opportunities for women as well as apparel factories, which will create more and more employment opportunities. We strongly believe in the fact that women in our society play a key role in shaping up the future of our kids and children. And women empowerment can clearly pave the way for them to contribute towards the task of creating an educated and empowered nation in the future. I must also mention the fact that we as a ministry, and I personally believe in inclusion, providing equal opportunities to everyone in the society, irrespective of religion, ethnicity, gender, class, or political affiliations.
Sri Lanka has invited the United Kingdom to set up an arbitration centre in the country. Foreign Minister Professor G.L. Pires commented on this during an event in London.
The Sri Lanka United Kingdom Chamber of Commerce was launched at the Sri Lankan High Commission in London. Foreign Minister G.L. Pires and the British Prime Minister's Special Envoy for Trade with Sri Lanka were present.
There is at the moment, I understand, significant interest in this country in establishing a centre of arbitration in Sri Lanka. Now, I think if you do that, you would be rendering yeoman service, because there is a yawning lacuna in the legal system. We have judges of unimpeachable caliber. We have a highly developed legal system which has been nurtured and enriched by judges and scholars who have studied in British universities. But we can do with a vibrant institution in the field of arbitration and conciliation. So if you do that, you would be responding to an urgently perceived need.
The Office for National Unity and Reconciliation under the Justice Ministry held its first annual conference today.
The theme of the conference is Resolving Differences Through Understanding, Sustainable Peace, Security and Reconciliation in Modern Society. This conference aims to research results related to issues of peace building, sustainable peace, rights and responsibilities of citizens, reconciliation and security in modern multicultural society.
When we achieved our independence, we were one of the most advanced economies in Asia. For various unfortunate interventions, we have failed to go ahead as a coherent Sri Lankan identity which would have taken us to the next level. Sri Lanka is a democracy, is a republic. In republic, people are the supreme, no one else. It is people who appoint the executive and they will remove if they don't perform. It is the people who will appoint the legislation. And it is based on people's power that Parliament pass laws and appoint the judiciary. So it is important that we always understand that what is supreme in a country like Sri Lanka are the people and their power and their sovereignty.
The Satyagraha launched by the Sri Lanka Teachers Union entered its 5th day today. The union is demanding the President and the Finance Minister to resolve their salary issues that have existed for 24 years. The police removed temporary tents that were set up at the location today.
Without following the court order that was issued yesterday, the police tried to remove this tenant unofficially while being in uniform. This is the police that is acting unofficially. They cannot perform their duties like this. There must be a law. The government is using thugs to cover up reasonable demands of teachers.
The New Generation Award 2021 was held yesterday. Sports and Youth Affairs Minister Nama Rajapaksa presided over the event.
The event was organized jointly by the National Youth Services Council and the Women in Management organization. Youth who have performed in several fields were recognized during the event.
ඔකලං award එක හම්බුණාට පස්සේ මං හිතනවා එන සුමානේ අපි news බලද්දි
After you have received these awards, I believe we won't see news reports on long queues near the passport office next week. This is a sad situation, but if you look at it personally, it is reasonable. As there are 2 young leaders in the country, let me tell you this. The youth will have to remain in the country for it to run. The solution to this can't be found only politically. We are asking politicians to address all matters. Politicians are elected to power for 5 years, but this country belongs to us forever. So we need to think whether we are to change or whether we should wait for others to change.
අනිත් අය වෙනස් වෙනකන් අපි බලන් ඉන්නවද කියලා පොඩ්ඩක් තට්ටු කරලා බලන්න.
අපි එදා කතා කරා ලංකාව අපි මහා දැවැන්ත ආර්ථික කේන්ද්‍රස්ථානයක් බවට පත් කරන්න ඕනේ කියන කාරණය.
We spoke about transforming Sri Lanka into a country with a strong economy. During their younger days, these youth might have been wondering why we can't build towers just like France. We built that. A certain group said we can't build a land in the sea and that only the Middle East can do it. But we built the port city. Is it a fault with the infrastructure developments that are taking place? We must ask the youth of this country who will be using these assets as to whether they have the right to think and act freely. They have the right to do that. The lack of ability is the problem.
While the cost of living continues to rise, some people have lost their livelihoods. Parents are left helpless as their children continue to remain in hunger. A mason in Kurunegala took to the streets today out of frustration. He demands the government to reduce the cost of cement and tile.
Ranil Vikramasiri, a father of 5, sets off to work in the morning. The cost of cement and tiles are high these days. This has left masons with no jobs. This situation has left them helpless. I took to the streets today on behalf of all masons and their assistants in Sri Lanka. We can't buy even a tile or a bag of cement today. We can't feed our children. That is why I took to the streets today. I am requesting for these products to be sold at concessionary rates. I wish to tell the relevant officials to sell cement at a reasonable rate.
Water is a basic need for all of us, but the people of Tabboa, access to clean drinking water was a luxury for several years. Thanks to Gammadda, these people are breathing a sigh of relief.
The village of Tabboa is facing a multitude of issues. Among these issues is the lack of access to clean drinking water. These villagers poured out their problems to Gammadda. In 2016, Gammadda launched a drinking water project for the village with the support of Brandix Lanka Limited and the Sri Lanka Navy. Today, the people of Tabboa and its surrounding villages have access to clean drinking water.
මේ කොවිඩ් වසංගතයත් සමගම හැම ප්‍රදේශයකින්ම මිනිස්සු ඇවිල්ලා කිසිම බයක් හැක් නැතුව වතුර ගන්නවා. මොකද මේ වතුර හරි පිරිසුදුයි.
The project by Gammadda is a great support for us. We come here from Tenuwara to obtain water. The water that we obtained earlier wasn't clean. Therefore, this project helped us a lot.
Gammadda, by the people, with the people, for the people.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa met with professionals in Kandy today. Special focus was drawn on the support of professionals in building the country.
Several professionals in the Kandy district attended the meeting with the opposition leader.
When policy decisions are made in the state sector, they must be done carefully, systematically and efficiently. Assessments, surveys and trials must be conducted before making decisions. A roadmap must be created to implement these decisions according to a plan. They made a stubborn decision to carry out the transformation immediately instead of doing it in stages. Any country hasn't been able to manufacture the organic fertilizer they need. Throughout the day, I hear cries of farmers asking why this is being done to them. They say they were living well without depending on anyone.
The book launch of the South Asian Environmental Law Report 2021, dedicated to environmental related laws, was held this morning.
The event took place at Waters Edge, Battaramulla, with the participation of the Minister of Justice Ali Sabri and several environmentalists, including the Executive Director of Centre for Environmental Justice, Hemanta Vitanage.
And there are some disputes between the communities and the miners, and the simple reason is that you don't need a transport license, and there were various other attached decisions by the GSMB that the police are not supposed to check the transport license. In fact, the transport license is a requirement under the Mines and Minerals Act, and we thought that the Cabinet of Ministers do not have the right to change that without going to the parliament. So that is a particular case about sand mining, and fortunately court upheld our position, and the court said that immediately, actually this case was against the whole Cabinet of Ministers and the Inspector General of Police, and the court upheld the position that the transport license should bring back, and issued an order to the IGP to check the transport license. But fortunately, this order is about reversing that cabinet decision, and we are happy that order has now in place. But unfortunately, the implementation still has problems. As in the court system, the legal mechanisms, the various authorities in the government, they have this lack of implementation, either because of the capacity or some influence.
So I invite all of you environmentalists, continue to keep that pressure going. You need to tap that. You need to criticize. I am open for that. And you feel that we are going astray, you must put us on the right track. And if you feel that we are giving up, you must go to courts and get us on track. That's how we go forward. No, it has to be taken in the right spirit, So therefore, I'm thankful for those who are involved in this, because you have kept us on our toes. And we, as by choice or otherwise, we are in this office, and we need to be at our best all the time. Otherwise, we must leave and go. So I'm thankful that you keep us all the time on our toes, and you take us all for accountability. You take us to courts and ask for questions, and that is all not for your personal gain, for the country and its benefit.
With that, we wrap up primetime news here on TV1. For more news, log on to our award-winning website. That is www.newsfirst.lk. For the Newsfirst team, I'm David Paldano, along with the sign interpreter for tonight, Taraka Gabriel. Take care and good night.